Captain Day 1 stood at the viewing port of the Perseverance, watching the massive council station grow larger as his ship approached. He had made this journey hundreds of times in his 30 years of service, but today felt different. Today, Ambassador Jiwan would finally present humanity's petition for full membership in the Galactic Council. 200 years of loyal service, of following every rule, of biting their tongues and swallowing their pride? Surely that was enough. The council chamber was enormous, designed to make visitors feel small. Day 1 walked beside Ji1 as she approached the central platform. Around them, representatives from dozens of alien species watched with expressions that ranged from boredom to barely concealed contempt. The Vextari sat in their elevated seats, their crystalline bodies reflecting the chamber's lights. The Molnari lounged in their sections, their multiple limbs draped casually over the armrests. These were the elder races, the ones who had ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years. Jiwan began her presentation. She spoke of Earth's contributions to Council military operations, of human colonies that paid their taxes without complaint, of human scientists who had made breakthroughs that benefited everyone. Her voice was steady and professional, but Day 1 could hear the hope beneath it. After 30 years as Earth's ambassador, she still believed diplomacy could work. Counselor Vextel interrupted her halfway through. His voice came through the translator as cold and sharp. "Ambassador, we have reviewed your petition. The Council finds it premature." Jiwan's face remained calm, but Day 1 saw her hands tighten on her datapad. "Counselor, humanity has been a provisional member for 2 centuries. We have met every requirement for full membership. You have done what was required of you, yes," Vextel said, "as is expected of junior species. But full membership requires more than mere compliance. It requires maturity, wisdom, restraint. Qualities that humanity has not yet demonstrated." Another counselor spoke up, a Molnari named Falsif. "Your species is too young, too volatile. You fight among yourselves even now? Just last year, there was that incident on Mars, a mining dispute that was resolved peacefully," Jiwan countered. "No violence occurred?" "But it could have," Falsis said with a dismissive wave. "Humanity's aggressive tendencies are well documented. You are useful as soldiers and workers, but leadership? That requires evolution you have not yet achieved." Day 1 felt his jaw clench. Dr. Hana, standing beside him, put a gentle hand on his arm. She had been warning him that this might happen, but hearing it was different than imagining it. Then Vextal delivered the real blow. "In fact, the Council has decided that Earth's defense fleet will be reassigned. There is a conflict in the Outer Rim that requires additional forces. Your ships will deploy within the month. That will leave our colonies undefended," Jiwan said, her voice rising slightly. "We have settlements in 3 sectors that have reported pirate activity. If you take our fleet, the Council will provide defense as needed," Vextel said. "Though, given the current budget constraints, response times may be delayed. Consider this an opportunity to prove your value to the Council. Service before self, Ambassador. Surely you understand this principle." Jiwan stood silent for a moment. Then she asked, "May I speak freely, Counselor?" "You may. I have served Earth as ambassador for 30 years. In that time, I have watched humanity give everything the Council asked. We have sent our sons and daughters to die in your wars. We have handed over our discoveries and innovations. We have followed every rule, no matter how arbitrary. And in return, we are treated with less respect than your maintenance staff. So I must ask, will there ever be a time when humanity is good enough? Or will you always find excuses to keep us beneath you?" The chamber fell silent. Several counselors shifted uncomfortably. This was not how provisional members were supposed to speak. Vextal's crystalline face showed no emotion. "Your tone is noted, Ambassador. Perhaps this outburst proves our point about human volatility. This session is concluded." Back on the Perseverance, Dr. Hana ran her medical scanner over Jiwan for the 3rd time. The ambassador had collapsed minutes after leaving the council chamber. Now she lay in the medical bay, unconscious but stable. "I don't understand it," Hannah muttered, studying the readouts. Her vitals just crashed for no reason. It's like her neural implant misfired? Day One looked at Jawan's pale face. Every council member and ambassador was required to have a quantum communicator implanted. It allowed instant translation and communication across the galaxy. Humanity had never questioned it. Wait, Hannah said suddenly. Her fingers flew over her console. This reading here, it's not a malfunction. Someone activated a kill sequence in her implant. What? Day One leaned over her shoulder. Look at the pattern. A deliberate cascade designed to appear like natural neural failure. If I hadn't caught it in the first few minutes, she would have died, and we would have blamed it on stress or disease. Hannah's hands shook slightly as she worked. Day One, every human ambassador and council member has these implants. If they all have kill switches, the implications hit him like a physical blow. 200 years of humans serving the council, and they had all been walking around with bombs in their heads. Can you remove it? He asked. Not safely. Not here. But I can disable the remote activation function. Hannah worked quickly, her medical tools making precise adjustments. There, she should wake up soon. Day One's communicator buzzed. The message was short and official. His orders from the council, transport duty. He was to proceed to the human colony of New Pyongyang and relocate 5,000 colonists to Vextari mining operations in the Krath sector? The phrasing made it sound voluntary, but Day One knew better. This was forced labor. He stared at the orders for a long time. Behind him, Jawan began to stir. What happened? She asked weakly. They tried to kill you, Hannah said bluntly. The council activated a kill switch in your implant. I've disabled it, but Jawan, every human with council implants has one. Jawan closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were hard. 200 years. All this time, they could have killed any of us whenever they wanted. It gets worse, Day One said, showing her his orders. They're using humans as slave labor now. Not even pretending anymore. Jawan read the orders, then looked up at him. What are you going to do? Day One thought about his crew, about the colonists who had left Earth to build better lives. About every human who had believed that if they just worked hard enough and proved themselves enough, they would earn respect. He thought about Vextel's dismissive tone, about Jiwan lying unconscious with a weapon in her brain, about 2 centuries of swallowed pride and broken promises. I'm going to refuse, he said quietly. Hannah and Jiwan stared at him. They'll court-martial you, Jiwan said. At minimum. They might kill you. Then they'll kill me, Day One said. But I'm not going to round up humans for slave labor. I'm not going to follow orders from people who see us as animals. Not anymore. He turned to his crew station and began typing out his response to the council. It was short, no. He pressed send. The message spread through human space like fire through dry grass. Captain Day One had refused a council order. For the first time in 200 years, a human had said no on Mars. A young man named Hin Wu sat in a cramped apartment surrounded by computer screens. He was part of a hacker collective, mostly just kids who liked to poke at corporate security systems for fun. But when he heard about Day One's refusal, something clicked in his mind. He started digging into council networks, looking for information that might explain why they treated humans so badly. What he found made his blood run cold. Files upon files of communications between council species. Humans referred to as useful animals and weapon meat. Discussions of how to keep human technology development slow. Plans to steal human innovations and claim them as council property. Videos of council members laughing about human casualties in their wars. And worst of all, documentation of the kill switches implanted in every human who served on council stations. Hyun Woo didn't hesitate. He broadcast everything across every human communication channel he could access. Within hours, every human in the galaxy knew the truth. Admiral Tae-hee sat in her office on Earth's orbital defense station, watching the data cascade across her screens. She had spent 40 years in the fleet, working her way up through patience and discipline. She had always counseled her officers to be patient, to trust the system, to believe that humanity's time would come, Now she stared at footage of a Molnari counselor referring to her as that clever monkey with the shiny uniform. Her communicator buzzed. Orders from Earth Command, which took orders from the Council. She was to take the home fleet to the Perseverance and arrest Captain Day 1. If he resisted, she was authorized to use lethal force. Tehi looked out her window at Earth below. She thought about her parents who had believed the Council represented hope for humanity. She thought about the thousands of humans who had died in Council wars, fighting for allies who saw them as expendable. She thought about what it would mean to arrest Day 1 for refusing to enslave his own people. Then she opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Admiral Tehi. By now, you've all seen the leaked files. You know what the Council really thinks of us? Command has ordered us to arrest Captain Day 1 for refusing to participate in human trafficking. I'm giving each of you a choice. Follow that order or follow me. Anyone who wants to arrest Day 1 can leave formation now. No judgment, no consequences. But if you stay with me, we're going to do something humans have never done before. We're going to stand up for ourselves. For 30 seconds, no one moved. Then one ship, then another, then dozens more began repositioning, forming up around the flagship. Out of 400 ships in the home fleet, only 12 left formation on the frontier world of New Pyongyang. Governor Mena received a visit from Inquisitor Thalmara, a Molnari enforcer with a reputation for cruelty. He arrived with 3 ships and a battalion of soldiers. Governor, Thalmara said with his translator's flat tone, the Council has decided that your colony will be relocated. Your people have skills needed in the mining operations of Krath sector. You have 24 hours to prepare for transport. Mena was a small woman who had spent 15 years building this colony from nothing. She had watched families arrive with hope in their eyes, had celebrated the first harvest, had buried colonists who didn't survive the harsh winters. Now this creature was telling her to pack up and abandon everything? No, she said simply. Thalmara's multiple eyes blinked in surprise. You refuse a council directive? I refuse an illegal order. These people are citizens, not slaves. We're not going anywhere. Then you leave me no choice. Thalmara gestured to his ships in orbit. Surrender within the hour, or I will bombard your settlement from orbit. Your defense shields won't last more than a few minutes against military-grade weapons. Mena looked at the alien enforcer and made a decision that would change everything. Then you'd better start shooting because we're not leaving our home. Thalmara seemed genuinely puzzled. You would choose death over relocation? This is irrational. Call it what you want, Mena said. But humanity is done taking orders from you. The bombardment never came. Instead, Thalmara sent his ground forces to seize the settlement by force. What he didn't know was that New Pyongyang had something most colonies didn't: large population of veterans from council wars. They knew how to fight. The battle was short and vicious. The Molnari soldiers were well-trained and well-equipped, but they followed standard council doctrine. They expected the humans to fight conventionally, to follow the rules of engagement that had governed warfare for millennia. Instead, the humans fought dirty. They used improvised explosives in buildings, snipers in unexpected positions, ambush that targeted officers first. They used tactics the council considered dishonorable: hiding among civilians, pretending to surrender, then attacking, even self-destructing buildings to take enemies with them. The Molnari soldiers panicked. In 50,000 years of council rule, they had never faced an enemy that fought like this. Within 6 hours, Thalmara was dead, his soldiers were surrendering, and his ships were retreating. The news spread faster than the council could contain it. A civilian colony had defeated a council military force. It seemed impossible back on Earth. Admiral Tehi received reports that human ships from across the galaxy were converging on Earth. Freighters, research vessels, even pleasure yachts. Any human with a ship was coming home. Captain Day 1 and the Perseverance were at the center of it. A symbol of resistance. The council convened an emergency session. For the first time in recorded history, a member species had unified in opposition to their authority. The elder races argued among themselves. Some wanted to negotiate, To make concessions? Others, like Vextal, argued for a show of force. They are primitives who have forgotten their place, Vextal declared. We have been too lenient, too tolerant of their barbaric nature. If we do not act decisively, other species will think rebellion is acceptable. High Counselor Zenrith, the supreme leader who rarely spoke, finally addressed the chamber. What do you propose? We issue an ultimatum, Vextal said. Humanity has 48 hours to surrender their military forces, recall all ships to Earth orbit, and deliver their leaders for judgment. If they refuse, we demonstrate what happens to species who defy the Council. And what demonstration did you have in mind? Another counselor asked nervously. Vextal's crystalline face reflected the chamber lights coldly. We have 3,000 warships available. We send them to Earth, we show humanity what real power looks like. One overwhelming show of force, and this rebellion ends before it spreads. The vote was close, but it passed. The ultimatum went out to Earth, broadcast across every channel. Humanity had 48 hours to submit or face the consequences. On the Perseverance, Captain Day 1 received the message. His crew gathered around him, waiting for his response. Dr. Hana stood beside him, her face pale but determined. Ambassador G1, recovered from her ordeal, watched him carefully. They want an answer, Day 1 said quietly. They want to know if we'll submit. What are you going to tell them? G1 asked. Day 1 thought about the 200 years of humiliation. He thought about the kill switches in human brains. He thought about Governor Mina and her colonists, who chose to fight rather than become slaves. He thought about Admiral Tehi and the 400 ships that had chosen honor over obedience. He opened a communication channel to the Council. You want to know if humanity will submit? He said, come to Earth and find out. But I'll give you fair warning, we're done being your servants. We're done swallowing our pride. We're done dying in your wars while you call us animals? You've spent 200 years pushing us down, and you finally pushed too hard. So yes, send your 3,000 ships. Send 10,000 if you want. But understand this, you're not facing the humans who begged for membership anymore. You're facing the humans you created by treating us like weapons. And weapons have a way of turning on their makers. He cut the transmission and looked at his crew. 48 hours. Let's get ready. The 48 hours passed like a countdown to the end of the world. Across Earth, people watched the skies and waited. Some prayed. Some packed what they could carry. Some simply went to work, determined to face whatever came with dignity. Admiral Tehi stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking at the tactical display. The home fleet had grown. Ships from across human space had made it back to Earth, joining the defense. She now commanded not 400 ships, but nearly 1,000. Still, it wasn't enough. Not against what was coming. Admiral, her tactical officer reported, the Council fleet is entering sensor range. Confirmed count. 3,200 vessels. Multiple species, combined fleet doctrine. They're taking formation at the edge of the system. He nodded calmly. Around her, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. They knew the odds. They knew they were probably going to die. But they also knew they were making a choice that humans hadn't been allowed to make for 2 centuries, the choice to stand and fight for themselves. All ships, battle formation, she ordered. Make sure everyone has the latest IFF updates. And someone play music over the fleet channel. Something human. Something that reminds us what we're fighting for. High Counselor Zenrith's face appeared on every human screen, his ancient features showing neither mercy nor emotion. People of Earth, this is your final opportunity to avoid destruction. Surrender your military forces and the Council will show leniency. Resist and you will be crushed. You have 1 hour to comply. Captain Day 1 stood on the bridge of the Perseverance. Now, positioned at the center of the human formation, Dr. Hana and Ambassador G1 were beside him. He thought about everything that had led to this moment, the assaults, the kill switches, the casual cruelty of beings who saw humans as tools to be used and discarded. He opened a return channel. His words were simple. Come try. The Council fleet moved forward in perfect formation, a wall of ships stretching across space. They were beautiful in their way, each species' vessels reflecting their unique approach to engineering. The Vextari crystalline dreadnoughts, the Molnari bioships, the sleek warships of a dozen other races. This was the military might that had kept the galaxy under council. Rule for 50,000 years, they expected the humans to wait, to defend, to die with dignity. Instead, the human fleet charged. Admiral Tahi had thrown away the Council's warfare doctrine. Standard procedure called for defensive positions, calculated fire exchanges, minimal risk to valuable ships. That was how civilized species fought. But humans weren't trying to be civilized anymore. The human ships accelerated at speeds that would have killed any other species from the gravitational forces. They scattered into chaotic formations that made no tactical sense. They flew straight at Council ships, reactors overloading, weapons firing wildly. Some ships were rigged to explode, turning themselves into massive bombs. Others performed kamikaze runs, sacrificing themselves to take out larger vessels. A young ensign named Bio-Ra piloted her fighter through impossible maneuvers, her squadron following in tight formation. Council point defense systems tried to track them, but the humans moved with reckless disregard for safety, their bodies pushed to the limit of what flesh could endure. Bio-Ra's squadron punched through the Council's fighter screen and targeted the command ship directly. On the ground, General Quan watched the battle from Earth's Defense Command Center. He had been waiting for this moment for 30 years. The Council had always been afraid of human military technology, afraid of what humans might create if they weren't controlled. So they had banned certain weapons, restricted certain research, claimed it was for everyone's safety, but General Quan had never stopped preparing. In hidden facilities across the solar system, human engineers had been building weapons in secret, ships that didn't appear in any official registry, technologies that the Council feared. Activate the reserve fleet, he ordered. Across the solar system, hidden shipyards came to life. Thousands of new vessels emerged from concealment ships built specifically to fight this battle. They weren't pretty like Council ships. They were brutal and efficient, designed by a species that had spent its entire history fighting itself and learning how to kill efficiently. Dr. Seung-min, the physicist who had led the secret weapons program, sat in a control center watching his creations deploy. The Council had banned artificial intelligence in weapon systems, afraid of what might happen if machines made combat decisions. They had banned quantum torpedoes because they were too destructive. They had banned drone swarms because they could operate independently. Seung-min unleashed all of them at once. AI-guided missiles swarmed Council ships, learning from each defensive maneuver and adapting. Quantum torpedoes phased through shields and exploded inside enemy hulls. Drone swarms operated with hive-mind efficiency, overwhelming Council defenses through sheer numbers and coordination. The Council fleet reeled. This wasn't how warfare was supposed to work. There were rules, protocols, traditions that had governed combat for millennia. The humans were breaking every single one. Ensign Bio-Ra spotted an opening in the Council flagship's defenses. The massive vessel was trying to coordinate the chaotic battle, its attention divided. She calculated the odds of surviving the run. They were essentially 0. She did it anyway. Her fighter accelerated to maximum speed. Her body pressed into the seat with crushing force. The G-forces would have killed most species. Humans had evolved on a heavy gravity world, had spent millions of years being just slightly tougher than they had any right to be. Bio-Ra gritted her teeth and kept flying. Council defense systems tracked her, fired at her. Her shields collapsed, her hull took damage. Alarms screamed warnings. She ignored them all and flew straight into the flagship's bridge section at nearly the speed of light. The flagship exploded in a massive fireball. High Counselor Zenrith died without understanding what had gone wrong. His species had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They had technology that primitive humans shouldn't have been able to challenge. They had numbers, experience, and the weight of history on their side, but they had made one critical mistake. They had assumed that humans would fight like civilized beings. They had assumed humans valued their lives the way other species did. They had assumed that slaves, when properly beaten down, would stay beaten. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Council fleet was gone. Not defeated or damaged, annihilated. Debris filled the space around Earth, the remains of 3,000 Council ships mixing with the wreckage of human vessels. Admiral Tahi stood on her damaged bridge, reading the casualty reports. 30% of the human fleet destroyed. Thousands dead. The victory had come at a terrible price. Admiral, her communications officer said quietly, we're getting transmissions from across the galaxy. Other species are asking what happened. Some are celebrating. Some are terrified. Tahi nodded slowly. The galaxy had just watched the impossible happen. The Council, which had seemed eternal and invincible, had lost an entire fleet to a species they considered primitive. Send a message to all human forces, she ordered. The Council attacked us and we defended ourselves. We want peace, but we're done being victims. Any species that wants to live in peace with humanity is welcome. Any species that wants to continue the Council's policies will get what the Council got. Captain Day 1 limped onto the bridge of the Perseverance, his ship battered but intact. Dr. Hana was treating wounded crew members, moving with calm efficiency despite the chaos around her. Ambassador G1 stood at a console, already composing messages to the other species of the galaxy. It's not over, G1 said quietly. The Council still has ships, still has power. They'll come back. Let them, Day 1 said. They finally learned something today. They learned that humans aren't weapons you can point and fire safely. We're the species that never gives up, that never surrenders, that would rather die free than live as slaves. They can send 10,000 ships next time. They can send 100,000. But every time they come at us, we'll make them pay. He looked out at the debris field, at the price of humanity's first real victory. We're not stopping here, he continued. We're going to take this fight to them. We're going to show every oppressed species in the galaxy that the Council can bleed. And we're going to make sure that humanity never has to bow to anyone again. On Earth below, people emerged from shelters and looked up at the sky. They had survived. Against impossible odds, they had faced the full might of the Galactic Council and won. Humanity had finally exploded. And the galaxy would never be the same. The news of the Council's defeat at Earth spread across the galaxy within days. On 100 worlds, species that had lived under Council rule for thousands of years watched the recordings of the battle and saw something they had never seen. Before the ancient powers could lose, Captain. Day 1 stood before a holographic display, showing the galactic map. Red markers indicated Council strongholds. Blue markers showed human positions. But now, new colors were appearing: green markers for species that had reached out to humanity, yellow for regions in open rebellion against Council authority. The galaxy is fracturing, Ambassador Jawan said beside him. 50 species have contacted us in the last week alone. Some want military aid. Some want technology. Some just want to know how we did it. What are we telling them? Day 1 asked. The truth. That we were willing to pay any price for freedom. That we stopped being afraid of death. G1 pulled up a communication log. But there's something else. Intelligence reports suggest the Council is regrouping. Councillor Vextal has taken command of their remaining military forces. He's consolidating power, pulling ships back from frontier regions to defend core worlds. Day 1 studied the map. The Council was contracting, pulling back to protect what mattered most to them. It was a defensive position, a sign of weakness. We're not giving them time to recover, he said. General Kwan's offensive plans are ready. We strike now, while they're still reeling. Admiral Tahi had reorganized the human fleet into strike groups. They didn't have enough ships to occupy territory, but they didn't need to. Their goal wasn't conquest, it was disruption. Make the Council bleed. Show the galaxy that the ancient powers could be hurt. Her forces hit Council supply depots first. These were massive stations that supplied military operations across entire sectors. The Council had built them to be impregnable, but they had never faced an enemy that fought the way humans did. The attack on Station Krath 7 became legendary. A human strike force, led by Commander Hyein and his Marine battalion, approached the station disguised as a Council supply convoy. When they got close enough, they dropped the disguise and attacked. The station's defenders were caught completely off guard. Hyen's Marines fought through the station's corridors with brutal efficiency. They didn't take prisoners. They didn't give warnings. They moved like predators who had been holding back for too long and finally got to hunt. The Vextari defenders, who had never fought a ground war on their own territory, panicked when they saw humans coming. Within 4 hours, the station was captured. Hyein sent a message to the Council, broadcast on all frequencies. This is what happens when you treat people like animals. Eventually, we bite back. Meanwhile, Ambassador Jiwon traveled on a diplomatic mission that was just as important as the military strikes. She visited species that the Council had kept under their control for millennia. The Kithrak, insectoid beings whose technology had been suppressed. The Solarians, energy beings who had been forced into physical form by Council law. The Driftborn, nomadic traders who had been restricted to specific routes. She showed them what humans had learned, that the Council maintained power through fear and through preventing other species from developing. She shared human technology freely, breaking the Council's monopoly on advanced systems. She helped them organize, communicate, and resist. You don't have to fight the way we did, she told a gathering of Kithrak leaders. But you do have to stop accepting that the Council has the right to rule you. They're not gods. They're just old species who figured out how to stay in power. And power can be broken. Back on Earth, Dr. Hana worked in a secret research facility, analyzing data captured from Council stations. What she found was disturbing but not surprising. The Council had been doing to other species what they had done to humans, suppressing technology, stealing innovations, implanting control devices, but she also found something else. Records of previous rebellions over the 50,000 years of Council rule. Other species had tried to resist. All of them had been crushed, their rebellions erased from official history. Why did humanity succeed when others failed? She asked Dr. Seung-min, who was helping with the analysis. Seung-min pulled up comparative data. The other species tried to fight the Council's way. They challenged them through legal channels, through debates, through trying to prove they deserved equal treatment. Only when they were desperate did they resort to violence, and by then it was too late. But humans were different. We didn't try to prove we deserved respect. We just took it. We didn't fight with honor or follow their rules. We fought to win, no matter the cost. Seung-min looked uncomfortable. The question is whether that makes us heroes or monsters. Councillor Vextal stood in what remained of the Council chamber. Half the member species had stopped sending representatives. Others had withdrawn their military support. The empire that had lasted 50,000 years was collapsing in months. We still have the deterrent, he told the remaining councillors. The stellar collapser? If we activate it near Earth's sun, their entire system will be destroyed. They'll have no choice but to surrender. That's genocide, one councillor objected. The entire reason for Council law is to prevent such actions. Council law no longer applies, Vextal said coldly. We are fighting for survival. Either we reassert control now, or everything we've built will be destroyed. The humans must be stopped, and if we must kill them all to do it, so be it. The vote was closed, but fear won. The Council activated their ultimate weapon, hidden in a secret location for exactly this kind of emergency. A stellar collapser capable of triggering a supernova in any star. They broadcast a message to Earth: surrender all military forces within 24 hours, or watch your son die. Dr. Hana found the location of the weapon in the captured data. It was hidden in a facility in the Nexus sector, protected by automated defenses and a skeleton crew. The Council had kept it secret for thousands of years, the ultimate insurance policy against rebellion. We have to destroy it, she told Captain Day 1. If they use it, Earth dies. Every human in the solar system dies. Billions of people. How do we get to it? Day One asked. We can't. Not in time. The defenses are too strong and it's too far away? Hannah pulled up the tactical data. Unless someone goes on a one-way mission. A ship that pushes its reactor past safety limits could get there in time. But the crew wouldn't survive the journey. Day One looked at the data for a long moment. Then he stood up. Get me a volunteer crew. Small ship, best pilots we have. And make sure Admiral Tahi knows that if we fail, Earth needs to evacuate immediately. Day One, this is suicide, Ji-won said. You can't. I can and I will. Day One's face was calm. This is what humans do, Ji-won. We see something that needs to be done, and we do it, even if it costs us everything. Besides, I'm the one who started this rebellion. Seems fitting that I see it through. He put out a call for volunteers. Within an hour, he had 5,000 applications. He chose a crew of 50, the best of the best. They knew what they were signing up for. The mission lasted 18 hours. Day One's ship, pushed beyond any safe operational limits, screamed across space at impossible speeds. The crew endured radiation levels that would have killed them slowly, but they didn't need to survive long. They just needed to get there. The automated defenses around the stellar collapser were formidable, but they were designed to stop an attacking fleet, not a single ship willing to sacrifice itself. Day One's vessel plowed through the defenses, taking catastrophic damage but never slowing down. We're not going to make it, his pilot said, blood running from her nose from the strain. Yes, we are, Day One said. Set collision course. Everyone to escape pods? Launch them in random directions. Maybe someone will get picked up? What about you? She asked. Someone needs to keep the ship on course. Day One smiled tiredly. Besides, I've had a good run. Now go. That's an order. The crew abandoned ship. Day One stayed at the helm, nursing the dying vessel toward its target. His vision was blurry, his body shutting down from radiation exposure, but he could still see the stellar collapser facility growing larger on his screen. He thought about Ji-won, who had spent 30 years trying to earn respect through diplomacy. He thought about the colonists on New Pyongyang who chose to fight rather than submit. He thought about all the humans who had died believing the Council's promises. This one's for everyone who swallowed their pride, he said to the empty bridge. For everyone who died in your wars. For everyone who believed we had to earn the right to be treated like people. We were wrong. We should have exploded a long time ago. His ship hit the stellar collapser at near light speed. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. The galaxy watched as the Council's ultimate weapon died with Captain Day One. And they realized something terrifying and wonderful: humanity wasn't going to stop. 1 year after the Council's collapse, the galaxy looked different. The elegant order that had existed for 50,000 years was gone, replaced by chaos, possibility, and fear. Some species thrived in the new freedom. Others struggled without the structure they had always known. And everyone wondered what humanity would do next. President Ji-won stood in what used to be the council chamber. She had been elected to lead the Terran Federation 3 months ago, chosen by every human colony and settlement across the galaxy. Now she faced representatives from dozens of species, all wanting to know the same thing: would humanity become the new council? We've received formal requests from 47 species asking Earth to lead a new galactic government, her aide said, scrolling through the messages. They want us to bring order back to the galaxy. And the others? Ji-won asked. 23 species have sent warnings. They're afraid we'll use our military advantage to dominate everyone else. They're building defensive alliances, preparing for what they see as inevitable human expansion. Ji-won looked out at the chamber where she had once begged for humanity's acceptance. The irony wasn't lost on her. Now everyone wanted humans to take charge or feared that humans would take charge. No one seemed to believe that humanity might choose a different path. Fleet. Admiral Tahi dealt with the military side of that fear. In her office on Earth's orbital station, she reviewed reports of human ships patrolling former council space. Some of her officers were getting aggressive, pushing around alien vessels, acting like the new bullies of the galaxy. We won the war, Commander Hyeon said during a briefing. We should act like it. These species respect strength. If we show weakness now, they'll turn on us the moment they think they can win. Is that what you think we fought for? Tae-hee asked quietly. To become the new oppressors? I think we fought to survive. And if we want to keep surviving, we need to make sure everyone knows not to mess with humanity. Tae-hee understood the sentiment. She had seen too many humans die in the war. The instinct to make sure it never happened again was strong. But she also remembered why they had fought in the first place. We didn't explode just to become what we destroyed, she said. We need to be better than the Council was. That means restraint. That means not using our strength to bully others. Even if it makes us vulnerable? Especially then. Real power isn't dominating everyone who's weaker than you. Real power is choosing not to. Dr. Hannah made a discovery in the Council's archived data that changed everything. She found records going back thousands of years, showing that other species had tried to rebel against the Council. The Kithrak had risen up 12,000 years ago. The Solarians had fought a war of independence 8,000 years before that. The list went on and on. Every rebellion had been crushed. The Council had perfected the art of maintaining control, learning from each challenge how to prevent the next one. They had outlawed certain technologies, suppressed certain ideas, and implanted control devices in anyone who might threaten their rule, but there was something else in the data. Analysis of why each rebellion had failed. And at the bottom of each report, the same conclusion: subject species unwilling to accept total war. Retained belief in negotiated settlement. Collapse inevitable once casualties exceeded acceptable levels. Dr. Hannah shared this with Dr. Seung-min. We won because we were willing to die. All of us, if necessary. The other species tried to fight limited wars, tried to negotiate, tried to find a middle path. We didn't, which makes us what? Seung-min asked. The most successful rebels in galactic history or the most dangerous species in the galaxy? Maybe both, Hannah said quietly. The question is what we do with that. In a hospital on Mars, the few survivors of Captain Day 1's final mission were recovering. Radiation treatments, synthetic organs, years of rehabilitation ahead of them. But they had survived, picked up by Admiral Tae-hee's rescue ships in the hours after the stellar collapse's destruction, one of them. The pilot who had been with Day 1 until the end received a visitor. It was a Vextari, one of the few who had broken with the Council during the war. He approached her bed cautiously. I wanted to thank you, he said through his translator. My people were wrong? About humans, about the Council, about everything. Your Captain Day 1 died to save Earth, but he also saved my species from making an unforgivable mistake. The pilot looked at the crystal being who represented the species that had tried to kill her entire world. She thought about everything that had happened, about Day 1's sacrifice, about the price humanity had paid for freedom. He would have done it anyway, she said. Even if it only saved Earth. That's what humans do, we protect our own, no matter the cost. But I'm glad it helped others too. That's what he would have wanted. On a frontier world called New Pyongyang, Governor Mina worked alongside Kithrak refugees who had fled Council territory in the war. The insectoid beings were building a settlement near the human colony, learning to farm in the harsh climate. A young human named Young Soo approached Mena with a concern. Governor, some of the colonists are worried about the Kithrak. They say we fought so humans wouldn't have to live under alien rule, and now we're inviting aliens to live on our world. Mena looked at Young Soo, then at the Kithrak working in the fields. We didn't fight so humans could rule alone. We fought so everyone could be free to choose their own path. These Kithrak chose to build a life here, peacefully, as equals. That's different from what the Council did. But how do we know they won't turn on us later? We don't, Mina admitted. But that's what freedom means. Taking risks. Trusting others. Building something new instead of just tearing down what was old. If we let fear turn us into what the Council was, then Day 1 and all the others died for nothing. President Ji-won stood before the first meeting of what she hoped would become the Galactic Assembly. Hundreds of species had sent representatives. Some came with hope. Others came with suspicion. All of them wanted to know what kind of galaxy would emerge from the ashes of the council. I know what you're thinking, Jiwan began. You're wondering if humanity will abuse its power. You're wondering if we'll become the new council, just with human faces. Some of you hope we will, because at least there would be order. Others fear we will, because you've seen what humans can do when we fight. She paused. Looking at the assembled representatives, here's what humanity learned in 200 years of being treated as inferior. Being stronger doesn't make you better. Having more advanced technology doesn't give you the right to rule. And forcing others to obey you doesn't create peace, it just creates resentment that eventually explodes. So what are you proposing? Asked a Molnary representative. No new council. No supreme government. Instead, an assembly where every species has equal representation. No vetoes, no special privileges, no forced compliance. If you want to join, you're welcome. If you want to leave, the door is open. The only universal laws will be these: no genocide, no slavery, no suppression of other species' development. And if someone breaks those laws? Another representative asked. Then we stop them, Jawan said simply. Humanity has proven we can fight when necessary. But we don't want to rule. We want to be free, and we want everyone else to be free too. If that means we have to be the galaxy's peacekeepers, we'll accept that burden. But we won't become the galaxy's masters. An elder Vextari, one who had opposed Vextal's policies, stood slowly. What if this assembly fails? What if this new order collapses into chaos without the structure the council provided? Then we'll do what humans have always done, Jawan said. We'll adapt, we'll struggle, and we'll survive. But at least we'll do it together, as equals. You realize, the elder said, that by refusing to rule, you may have ensured that no one can? That the galaxy might never return to the order we once had? Jiwan smiled. Good, that was the point. 6 months later, Fleet Admiral Taehi commissioned a new class of ships. They were different from the warships that had won humanity's freedom. These vessels were designed for exploration, for first contact, for helping other species develop their own defenses. The first ship of this new class was named Day One, in honor of the captain who had started it all by saying no on the bridge of the Day One. A mixed crew prepared for their first mission. Humans worked alongside Kithrak, Solarians, even a Vextari engineer who had defected during the war. They were heading to uncharted space, to regions the Council had kept sealed for millennia. The ship's captain stood looking out at the stars. She was young, had joined the fleet after the war, and represented a new generation of humans who had never lived under Council rule. What do you think we'll find out there? Her first officer asked. He was Kithrak, curious about everything. I don't know, she said. Maybe other species who need help. Maybe dangers we can't imagine. Maybe nothing at all. Doesn't that scare you? A little. But humans evolved as persistence hunters. We're the species that never gives up, that keeps moving forward even when we don't know what's ahead. The Council tried to break that spirit, and all they did was prove that you can't keep humans down forever. She activated the ship's engines. Let's go see what's out there. And whatever we find, we'll face it as equals. Not as masters, not as servants, but as free beings exploring a galaxy that finally has room for everyone. The Day One jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying its crew toward the unknown, back on Earth. President Jiwan stood at a memorial for everyone who had died in the war for freedom. Thousands of names were carved into black stone, including Captain Day One's at the very top. She placed a hand on his name. We did it, she said quietly. We didn't just win our freedom. We changed the galaxy. Now comes the hard part, figuring out how to live with what we've become. Humanity finally exploded, and the blast was heard across the stars. The question is what we build in the aftermath. She looked up at the sky, at the stars that now represented possibility instead of oppression. I think you'd be proud of what we're trying to do. We're not perfect. We're still learning. But we're free, and we're making sure others can be free too. That's what you died for. That's what you all died for. The sun set over Earth, and somewhere in the darkness between stars, the Day One continued its journey into a new future,